So we may as well move on to that topic now because I've been wanting to ask you about that. And in particular, I know that Google's parent company, Alphabet, they've begun testing some new hybrid drones.
Yeah.
And it's called Project Wing at the moment. And they've been delivering medications to customers throughout rural parts of Australia.
Yeah.
And they've even had a partnership with Guzman and Gomez, which is a local Mexican food joint.
Yeah.
And they're testing that out in Canberra. So they're actually using drones for commercial deliveries in pilot mode. So where do you see the future of drones being used for commercial applications such as delivery?
Yeah, look, it's one of those things. I've done a lot of work in the retail technology space.
Yes.
And everyone's talking about artificial intelligence, drone deliveries, and all this kind of stuff. And it's a headline.
Yeah.
Right? And most of us, live in the era of the great headline readers. But I'm also believe we live in the era of the greatest headline writers.
Yes.
Everyone's getting onto LinkedIn and saying drone delivery and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But then there's the reality of the situation. Yeah. That nobody's really discussing because they haven't delved deeper.
Yeah.
And even, I was looking at Amazon's website that they've got dedicated to their drone delivery service that they're working on.
Yes.
For the average punter that doesn't know anything about drones or the regulations, they go, oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
But let's delve a bit deeper. So personally, my belief is that drone delivery is way off.
Yeah. In terms of technology available to us right now.
A lot of different fronts, and we can go through each point. Yeah. But it's way off from where we sit today. So I'll start by talking about the technology.
Yeah.
So where the technology's at in that space is that drones really suffer from battery life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a helicopter. A helicopter stops flying if that rotor stops moving.
Yeah.
If the engine fails, yes, you can auto-rotate, but you need that engine to be moving to keep it flying. And it's the same with the drone. It doesn't have a wing that can glide.
Yeah.
So they use a lot of battery, which will limit how far away you can fly the drone.
Yes.
So battery life is a massive issue. Tied up with that is payload.
Yeah.
If you're going to carry something that weighs 5 kilos, you need a pretty powerful drone.
Yeah.
And a pretty powerful drone needs some pretty serious batteries to keep it fueled.
Yeah.
So you're churning through batteries, and they're expensive.
Yeah.
So and the drone gets bigger. And so now we've got these bigger drones flying around that are chewing through batteries as well. So battery life's always going to be a problem.
Yeah.
With them.
And in this current point of time, it certainly is, but new battery technology is emerging. So over the coming years, we've got the new lithium metal batteries. That they're proposing going to be 3 times as long as the current batteries.
We
need to be. It's the same with EVs. One of the limitations, with an electronic vehicle is that kilometre range that's just too limiting for many drivers. Same thing with drones. Once it becomes a commercial viable product, that you need to get lengthy delivery distances.
Well, that's right. And the problem with battery technology is you can build a battery that's got massive capacity.
Yes.
But when you put it in an aircraft that has to fly, and it weighs a ton,
yes,
you ain't getting off the ground.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge that everybody's had is how do you produce a small, lightweight, powerful, long-lasting battery? That technology will develop, but it's not here today.
Yeah.
What some people have done is there's some development, I think, in the US around using petrol-powered engines as a generator on a drone to charge the battery. So now you're using electricity, but using a petrol-powered model plane engine to act as a generator to keep the flight time up.
There's also the possibility of solar if they were able to develop solar panels that were small enough to produce enough power. But
we're talking about something that could be 50 years away. They're trying to do it with aeroplanes. With a fixed-wing aircraft, you can... It's a different story.
Yeah.
One motor, a wing, it's a bit more efficient in the way that it flies. And so one of the great things I've seen online is the use of a fixed-wing drone in Africa to deliver blood supplies.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're launching this thing like a slingshot out of a purpose-built sort of premises in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It flies to its destination. It deploys a parachute, drops the blood supplies, the medical supplies down to the village, and then it returns to home.
Yeah.
Now, it's not small. The way that it lands is amazing. It lands in a net, basically.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a runway, it just lands in a net. But it's big.
Yeah.
And in that situation, and this is something the Air Force have got drones that can do that. The true sense of drones, where you put a wing on a plane, a winged plane, and a motor, fill it full of fuel, all right, or load up with a whole bunch of batteries and automate the flight using GPS, etc. You can do that now.
Yeah.
That to me makes sense, especially in the context of remote areas,
Sure.
not built up areas.
Yeah.
When we start talking about Amazon delivering a box to you,
and we're not just talking one box, because Amazon operate on volume.
Yeah.
So we're talking about hundreds or thousands of drones flying in the
that
sky.
is a very, very good point. I was at a recent event, seminar full of tech heads from the business technology area in transport and logistics. And there was a gentleman there from Australia Post, and he covered this drone delivery thing. And he said, Australia Post are doing something like 600,000 deliveries a day in the Melbourne, Australia area. He said, we need 20,000 drones every day.
To replace those deliveries.
Yeah. And who wants 20,000 drones? And then you'll have all the other courier companies having their drones, and Amazon will have their drones, and all these companies will have their own drones.
Yeah.
And so we could have hundreds of thousands of drones buzzing over our heads, right?
Yeah. Well,
relying on automated technology.
Yeah.
That still has glitches.
True. But what I think might be more viable as we move towards an AI, you can hear that plane in the background there. As I mentioned, we are about 5 k's from the airport.
We can't fly a drone.
It's not a drone; it's actually a plane.
Yeah.
But what I see as being more viable is perhaps a mixed use of autonomous vehicles to deliver, because we know that we're trying to minimize the labor costs involved in delivery, but we might see some road-based vehicles that are autonomous, that is exclusively used for the purpose of delivery, mixed with some drone usage where the areas are less accessible. So that might be more confined to regional areas that are harder to get to. But in the city built-up areas, it certainly doesn't seem viable to see thousands of drones flying in the sky.
We won't see thousands of drones anytime soon flying around, because there'll be an uproar.
Yeah.
There was Talkback Radio last week. They were talking about regulations around drones, and then people will ring up and say, "Oh, there was a drone flying over me whilst I was sunbaking in the backyard." Right?
Yes.
Well, now you're going to have 20,000 drones flying around the sky trying to do deliveries. What could happen is drones could be used for medical purposes in delivering blood supplies from one hospital to another. That's probably more realistic. You can land on top of the hospital building and pick up your supplies and move on. That is probably more feasible. Your payload is going to be 10 kilos. It's going to be a lot less. So that is viable.
Yeah.
And that would probably be the first area that would adopt drone delivery and be regulated for that purpose. And in country areas, the argument becomes even stronger. Okay, you still need to be able to fly a long distance. That's the big problem. A fixed-wing aircraft is more capable than a traditional quadcopter style drone. So you've still got the challenges of battery life that come into play. Now, it's interesting with Amazon and their trials. They're doing a trial thing in the UK. You have a look at their website. It's all in the country. It's only going to be for very limited products. Only going to be for specific products, because you can't go and buy a new laptop computer and they're going to deliver it to you by drone. And by the way, do you want it to be delivered by drone? But then there's another big thing that I look at is currently the regulations don't allow for a drone delivery. That totally have to change.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to fly near people. You're going to have to fly over built up areas. And then you're relying, like the drone then comes to the front of your house and there's a tree and a power line.
Yeah.
Yes, there's technology to avoid obstacles. Is it foolproof? No. But what the drone will do is it will avoid the object, but it has to land somewhere. It can land on top of a car.
Yes.
Okay, you'd have to program it to say, this is what a car looks like. We're going to have to program everything. But where's it going to land? In the middle of the road? Because it could.
Yeah.
Or on the roof of a house. Then what do you do? We're not there yet. There's so many grey areas that prevent the drone from being a viable option. And those people that are developing drones to try to use in this market, they cost a fortune. And if you need 10,000 drones, you're not going to go and spend $1 billion on drone delivery for something that not only are you going to have avoidance of obstacles, you're going to have avoidance of other drones.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to. You can't fly. You won't be able to deliver near an airport.
Yeah.
You can't deliver near in the city, built up area.
Yeah.
So realistically, the only viable option is out of suburbia into rural areas is where you could do the drone delivery. And your point in which you take off and land, the fulfillment point, needs to be closer to that area than in a central location.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that would need to change. Technology definitely needs to change, and the regulations need to change. And whether they're willing to change the regulations, because then will there be a rule for commercial operators versus amateur operators, and what will those regulations look like, hasn't been determined.
Yeah.
In Australia, they've just had a Senate inquiry into drone use. Yeah. There's been a whole series of recommendations. Now, if those recommendations get up, there's not going to be any drone deliveries happening anytime soon. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
This is around the world, that it's not an option at this point in time. No matter what people can spruik in their headline, talk to me about the detail. You tell me, if you can't fly within 30 metres of a person or in built-up areas or near an airport, then how does it become viable from a commercial perspective?
Yeah. So really, no matter what advancements are made in terms of the technology itself, the regulations there to protect individuals from being harmed by a drone are always going to be in place. So that's going to prevent it from ever really taking off.
True. And, when it comes to full-size aircraft, not anybody can just become a pilot.
Yeah.
You have to go through a training process to become a pilot and be licensed to do that. And there's a lot of regulations around the aircraft themselves. So, for example, are we going to then have a new industry that supports the maintenance of drones? That every 100 hours you must replace the motors and you must, check the airframe for any damage. But then the other thing I don't get is the drone lands out the front of my house.
Yeah.
The drone's worth more than the chocolate bar that they just delivered me.
Yeah. It's vulnerable to theft or anything.
Yes, they'll be able to vandalism.
Track it.
We've seen it happen with these, the O-Bike scheme in Melbourne, where you could hire a bike and half of them ended up in the Yarra River.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what's going to happen with the drones?
That can be a cultural thing, because those O-bikes came from an Asian country. I'm not sure whether it was China or where there was a lot more respect towards property than you'd have in other cultures. You know what I mean? So I think in Australia, there was a bit of a statement made there about having public property used in that way. So I think you're right. If drones are out there just, everywhere, left, right and centre by large corporations, there's a chance that there'll be a lot of disrespect towards them being there.
And keep in mind that, remember, if they're going to be delivering packages that weigh 1 kilo, 2 kilos, you're talking about a big drone.
Yeah.
You need wingspan of the drone.
Yeah.
I've got a drone with me, actually. So I've got this little drone here, right? This is the DJI Mavic Air. Now, the DJI Mavic Air is a great little consumer-grade kind of drone. It's awesome. It's compact. It folds up. Now, that I can get close to 20 minutes of flight time out of it.
Yeah.
Right? That couldn't lift anything much.
No.
It's tiny.
Yeah.
So you imagine, to lift something, you need a very big drone to do that. So
I think the largest drone's capacity now is about 12 kilos that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Look, people have built drones that can carry big payloads.
Yeah.
There's an Australian organisation doing really good work in that commercial drone industry called XM2, and they do a lot of Hollywood filming kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're developing their own drones, and they're massive because they're carrying heavy red cameras and RLXs and all this kind of stuff. So they're doing massive things. So there's nothing off the shelf that caters for them. I was in China last year, and I saw a DJI drone that they've developed for agricultural use for spraying of crops.
Yes.
And it's massive. It's got, I can't say exact number, but more than 12 props I reckon it's got on it. So there's 12 motors trying to lift this payload. Now, one of the downfalls is an expensive drone too. It's not cheap. One of the downfalls of it is that just the flight time and the carrying capacity. You still have that issue. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
But in Australia, where you've got massive farms and you've got to spray them, you're not even going to do half a paddock. And before you have to go and change the batteries, and the batteries are expensive as well.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing, commercially, they're all electric powered.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a team of people changing batteries. Right. So yes, you'll get some savings maybe from the transport perspective, the flight time and the being able to fly the product, but you're going to have a massive workforce supporting this drone network, that every time you do a delivery, you need to change the battery. And the batteries at the moment for some of these DJI commercial drones, we're talking about $300, $400 batteries.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. And you're going to have hordes of them and chargers going non-stop to keep the drones fed. So I honestly cannot see it happening anytime soon, because there's just too many barriers to overcome. Will it happen? Potentially.
Yeah.
But
if we go back to the DJI you've got here with us today, what sort of battery life do you get out of that?
Okay, so as I said, it was about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it depends. This is the other thing we didn't mention, actually, is weather.
Yeah.
Because
how does it handle the
so
weather?
if it's windy, I might only get 15 minutes flight time out of this because the motors are
working
working
harder.
to stabilise and it's working harder.
Yeah.
Can't fly it in the rain. Can't
Yes.
fly it in high wind.
Yeah.
It's affected by cold weather. Battery life is affected by cold weather.
Yes.
Reduces. So some DJI in their DJI Inspire 2 product, they've got heaters in the battery to heat them up so they can get better performance in cold weather. So you can go to the snow and fly them, etc. So look at it from a commercial perspective. Sorry, we can't deliver your product today because it's exceeding our wind limits. And the wind limit might be 15 knots.
Yeah.
Now, for those that go sailing, 15 knots is sort of an average breeze. But depending on where you're located in the world, you might be in a windy area. You're not getting any deliveries happening. Half the time they're going to be grounded because it's too windy to actually do the delivery. Now, you can fly them in high wind, but the battery life diminishes substantially, and there's more of a risk of losing the drone, as it gets blown around in the wind. It's constantly working to try to stabilize itself, and that workload can just end up killing the thing. So, battery life is determined by weight, by the size of the battery, which relates to the size of the drone, really.
Yes.
And the motors that are used, the propellers that are in use. So there's a lot of variables, but nowadays with most of the DJI product, you're heading towards the 15 to 20 minute mark. What's funny is that go back, I'm not joking, like 4 years, and we were at 6 minute flight times. So it's just progressed so much in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And if it keeps on going, a lot of these barriers will be overcome. But what I find with the technology development in these drones is that it's tapering off now. We've got good camera gear with gimbals, stabilized video footage. We have sensors. There's sensors on the front of this, on the rear of it. Some of them have them on the sides as well. Downward facing, upward facing sensors for obstacle avoidance. So that's the next level. We have the range now. It's more than substantial. The technology's become more reliable. They used to, a lot of these products used to suffer from flyaways. Suddenly the thing just goes haywire.
So has that happened to you before?
Yes.
It has.
Well, I didn't have a flyaway, but I've had a disconnection issue with. I won't tell you what drone it was.
Okay.
But the transmitter disconnected from the drone, and the drone. Luckily, a lot of these DJI drones have automated features that if that happens, they'll go into a self-flying mode.
Yeah.
And so it landed by itself. It basically what ends up happening is if it loses connection, it flies up and waits for a connection. If it doesn't get a connection after a certain amount of time, it says, okay, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
Problem that I had is that I launched it not far away from a tree.
Oh.
And so when it came into land, I was paranoid that I was actually going to hit the tree.
Yeah.
Luckily, the obstacle avoidance got around it and landed it. It wasn't my drone either. I was doing a review on it, so I was a bit paranoid. So I've learnt.
It landed safely in the end?
It landed safely in the end with no damage. But why did it disconnect?
Yeah.
Now, that's an issue.
Yeah.
The next step is the flyaway, where it just flies away. And it's soft. We're dealing with software. It's all software generated. It's amazing what they've got in these.
Yeah.
They put processors into these now.
Yeah.
Like computer
very
processors.
sophisticated. Yeah.
So they're amazing pieces of technology.
Yeah.
But from a commercial perspective,
we're not quite there yet.
Let's talk about society.
Yeah.
Do we want 100,000 drones flying around Melbourne at this point in time?
Clearly not. With all the dangers and
let's take it around the world.
The annoyance.
Let's do it in New York. Let's do deliveries in New York.
Just not practical at all. I think ground-based delivery, I think the autonomous vehicle concept is the way to get around deliveries more so than drones. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I think drones is probably only practical for remote locations where you can't get about on the ground as easily.
Yeah.
So
I really love the idea of the fixed wing automated aircraft that can do medical deliveries in remote areas. It makes sense. Makes sense. It's awesome.
But for small consumer deliveries, in multiples of 1,000 or more, it's to see that many drones in the sky is not viable.
It's not viable. And
so it's really a headline that you were talking about before. It sounds amazing when we see these brands like, as I mentioned earlier, the fast food brands trying to create a headline that they're using drones for delivery. It's just a headline.
It's a great...
To show they're progressive, to show that they're...
It's a great marketing ploy. Yeah.